The gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for such time as he may consume.
I would just like to clarify that H.R. 161 is certainly not any drastic piece of legislation. The Energy Policy Act of 2005 designated the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission as the lead agency charged with coordinating and reviewing natural gas pipeline project applications. Therefore, FERC conducts the environmental review of each project as required under the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, and is given authority to set deadlines for other agencies to issue an approval or denial of an associated permit. So when these applications are filed at FERC, the application also is given to other agencies that may have jurisdiction over the Clean Water Act, maybe like the Corps of Engineers, the Clean Air Act, EPA perhaps, or endangered species. So it's not like that they just have 90 days to look at this. They get the application the same time as FERC does. The problem that FERC has had, and they've had both Democrat and Republican commissioners come to Congress and say that they need more authority over these other agencies. So this bill does precisely that. It gives the agency, once FERC has made a final determination and completed its process, it gives the other agencies another 90 days, even though they've been working on it for a year in advance of that, another 90 days to complete it. And if they want another 30 days, then they can do that as well. So I would just say that this is not rushing the process. It's simply completing the 2005 Energy Policy Act that gives FERC authority. We give them authority, but we don't give them any enforcement mechanism. And so this is precisely what this legislation does. I might also add that having deadlines for agencies to act when doing environmental reviews or issuing permits is not really that strange or unique of an idea. Canada, Australia, most European Union nations have deadlines for their environmental regulatory agencies to act. Any person that's doing any kind of business in America knows the bureaucracy that we all run into. And it's easy to criticize bureaucracies. We know that they are dedicated, committed citizens trying to protect the environment, protect the American people, and we commend them for doing that. But we also know that they frequently let things slide. It's easy to get to lose the process. And we hear common complaints nonstop about delay, delay, delay. And we know from hearings on this bill has already passed the House once, but we know from hearings that the northeastern United States are really vulnerable to not having sufficient natural gas to meet their needs. They're closing nuclear power plants. The President is making sure you can't build a new coal plant in America. Existing coal plants, many of them are going to be going out of business because of extreme regulations of this climate-driven administration. So these communities, and we've heard testimony about the escalating prices of electricity for people. So this is designed to provide the infrastructure to get the natural gas where it needs to be. And the Northeast is one of those areas. So that's really what this bill is about. It's about giving FERC some real authority, setting in statute that these agencies must act within a certain amount of time. And with that, I would reserve the balance of my time. In summation, I would just urge the passage of H.R. 161. I would note once again that during the hearings on this legislation, commissioners, both Republican and Democrat at FERC, said that more accountability was needed for agencies that issue permits necessary to construct natural gas pipelines. Now, many people have raised the issue that the President has said he would veto this bill. And you know, that's his job, that's his responsibility, but that's our type of government that we have. We have a legislative branch, we have an executive branch, and we have a judiciary. And the legislative branch's responsibility is pass legislation that it deems necessary. And if the President wants to veto it, let him veto it and give his reasons why. And then the American people can listen to both sides and decide what they think is the right direction to go. I would just stress once more that the Energy Information Agency data from last year's winter cold snap during the month of January showed that residential natural gas prices in Pennsylvania were 14% above the national average, New Jersey 18% higher, New York 24% higher, Vermont 60% higher. And one of the reasons given is the lack of infrastructure to get natural gas pipelines to where the natural gas to where it needs to go in the Northeast. So this is a common sense bill that is being presented to help solve this problem of energy needs in America. And if we're going to be competitive in the global marketplace, we need good low-cost residential electricity prices, but we also need low-cost manufacturing and heavy industry electricity prices in order to compete in the global marketplace. That's what H.R. 161 is about, and I would urge the members to support this legislation that was drafted by Mr. Pompeo of Kansas, and I yield back the balance of my time. Mr. Speaker, I withdraw my point of order and claim the time in opposition to the motion.
The reservation is withdrawn, and the gentleman from Kentucky is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the gentleman from New Jersey and the Speaker from New York raising this safety issue, because obviously safety is of paramount importance to all of us. And that's why we do have the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, PHMSA, that has the responsibility to make sure that these pipelines operate in as a safe manner as possible. And we also recognize that we never get to a point where it's absolutely safe. But H.R. 161 really does not have anything to do with PHMSA. Our committee does have jurisdiction over PHMSA. We've had a lot of hearings on it. We're going to continue to have hearings because we want to maximize pipeline safety. But H.R. 161, which this motion to recommit is addressing, this legislation is not about anything except perfecting the 2005 Energy Policy Act that gave FERC the quarterbacking authority for approving these natural gas pipelines from the aspect of their impact on clean water, clean air, endangered species. And so this legislation simply gives FERC the authority that many of its commissioners ask for, and that is that they have some authority to convince these agencies to start looking at the impacts of the applications earlier in the process rather than at the end. And so even after the one-year process is over, they still have 90 days. They may ask for another 30 days. And so with that, because of that reason, that this is not a pipeline safety bill, it's about a process bill, I would respectfully request that we defeat this motion to recommit, and I look forward to working with the gentleman from New Jersey and others on pipeline safety as we have hearings and legislation about PHMSA. And with that, I would yield back the balance of my time.